Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the world's first Paul Weller fan podcast. I'm Dan Jennings, and 10 years ago I gave up my live streaming career as a radio presenter with one big regret: never getting to interview my hero, the legendary British musician Paul Weller. This podcast exists purely to solve that issue. Welcome to Desperately Seeking Paul. And in this episode, my guests really need no introduction. In fact, they're going to introduce themselves. All I'm going to say is, let's chat to some Weller superfans. Ladies and gentlemen, the Jam Tarts. Over to you, ladies.
Hi, I'm Jane Griffiths. I live in Herefordshire, and I've probably been a Jam and Paul Weller fan since about 1979, and it's ongoing with no breaks.
Hi, I'm Jackie Pearce, and I'm from Reading. Been a Weller fan for many years, since, the Jam days, but really got into Paul Weller in the late, 90s, really.
Hi, I'm Rachel Phillips, and I'm the token northerner. So I'm from Bingley, which is in West Yorkshire. So about 20 minutes outside Leeds. Been a fan of Paul's for a long, long time. I can remember the lads at school in the sixth form in their parkas, and that was sort of my first introduction to the Jam, shall we say. I think it was more the boys in the parkas than the Jam that I was really after.
Now, we've got so much to dig into here. First of all, I have to understand where the Jam Tarts came from. The name the Jam Tarts, this is from a school friend of Paul Weller, right? Yeah. So this is from Steve Carver.
So it's Steve Tufty, as we all know him, don't we? Jane and Jackie and I had sort of met each other really through the exhibitions that Nikki and Den curated. The Liverpool one, it was where I first met Jane and then subsequently Jackie. And then we've gone to various Q&As and literary events and the rest of it. And it was, I can't remember which one it was now. I don't know if the others can remember, but it was Tufty who came up with his sort of nickname. Oh, look, here come the Jam Tarts. And it's just stuck, and it is said with heartfelt emotion, I think, really, on Tufty's behalf. It's just lovely.
Now, we should kick off, right? So you've mentioned a little bit about when you discovered Weller and what it means to you, but there's so much to get into here, so many memories to tap into as well. Jackie, I'm going to start with you. For you, this journey started in the 80s with the Jam. Was that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my sister was really into kind of punk and everything. And she was going into town one day, and I'd heard the Jam, Town Called Malice, and I begged her, please, can you get me the single? And she did, because I'd kind of been into like the beat and everything by then. But I just heard Town Called Malice, and I thought, wow, this is just amazing. The lyrics, the beat of it was just fantastic. And I had to have that single, and she did. And that was like, just played over and over and over constantly. Yeah, I was too young to go to any gigs really, because I'd kind of discovered them just as they were splitting up, which I felt kind of pretty cheated really. I felt really cheated that, I couldn't actually go and see them. Yeah, then just kind of enjoyed the rest of the journey. Kind of liked the Style Council, was by then getting into other things as well. So it was really about 97, I think it was. I was really kind of enjoying Paul Weller, and then I just had the opportunity to go and see him in, it's a park in London. I can't even remember what it was called. And then that was it. And ever since then, I've just been going like every year, 2, 3, 4 times a year, really. Wow. To see him. Just go where I can, when I can. Still haven't met him because, he keeps ignoring me for some reason. I just don't understand it. So,
You're also desperately seeking Paul, right?
I waited outside. Yeah, desperately. I waited outside Cardiff Castle when we went to see him, 2 years ago, I think it was, for almost 4 hours. He just kept going past me in his little buggy. And I was like, can you stop? No. And, he said hello. He waved and said hello, but no, it just wasn't to be. Tick that one off and try the next one. So, but I've got some plans up my sleeve, believe me. Yeah, he doesn't know about them, but yeah, he'll get a shock.
Oh, so right.
I've got some plans.
Look out, Paul. Yeah. What is it about the music that connects with you, Jackie? So back to the Jam, Town Called Malice, from that moment onwards, and the rediscovery of Weller in the 90s with Heavy Soul and those albums.
Yeah.
What is it that connects? Why is it so special?
I just think it's the lyrics for me. They're so, to think that he actually wrote all those lyrics when he was 17, 18. You can really connect with him throughout the years. Doesn't matter what era it is. Everything he writes about is just so up to date with everything, you know, and everybody somewhere along the line can connect with his lyrics, definitely.
Now, I also say you've got artwork behind you. Some artwork of Mr. Weller by the looks of things.
Yeah.
I think we've got, there's a lot of it. Album covers, posters, pictures, drawings. But as we cross over to Jane, it looks like you're in a record shop.
This is my record shop.
Is it actually a record shop?
No, it's not. This is Jackie Pierce's.
I was just going to say, that's my bedroom.
Yeah.
Wow. So you've got pretty much everything there, from pictures to albums, records, photos, the lot, right?
Usually it's a man cave, but us ladies haven't got man caves, we've got Weller shrines.
Yeah, you know, definitely.
And because if anybody comes to visit, they say, "Oh, your husband's into that's my husband." I said, "No, it's me. It's my stuff." And
he hates Weller. Let's get back, because a similar story for you in terms of discovery was around going underground in 1979.
Yeah, that's right. I've got 3 elder brothers and 1 younger, and the 3 eldest ones were getting into music and going out and enjoying themselves. And I was too young to go with them. My brother returned one night from, I think it was Malvern Winter Gardens, after seeing the Jam. I think he stuck a ticket under my pillow. And I'm sure one of my other brothers nicked it, because it disappeared out of my scrapbook. Oh. And it was the only treasured ticket I would have ever had, because I never went. So Going Underground was the first song. And then Start was my favourite. I've got that engraved on my iPod, just from there, really. And then I did my back catalogue of all the early stuff in the city backwards. I had a friend who was from Leeds who was to come and visit his auntie near me, and he was big into the Jam, so he recorded a lot for me of the albums on cassette, which of course is illegal and we don't encourage.
No.
But they got full of dust the time, so I haven't got them anymore. I've replaced them with vinyl over the years.
So as somebody who couldn't experience the live experience, primarily because of age at that point, right? Presumably your discovery of the band are through these cassettes you talk about, but TV, Top of the Pops, you know, and radio, I would imagine.
Yeah, there was quite a few in our school as well. A school friend of mine, everybody knows, Shane Juice, and he gave me my first signed photograph, a 6x4. Yeah, so the day that the Jam split up, it was through the radio, and like walking around the school, everybody was getting quite upset about it, and they were saying, "Did you know the Jam was splitting up?" And they were really getting quite upset. But if they wanted any knowledge of it, they'd have to go and confirm it with Shane Juicer, because he was the man to know, you know.
Well, the kid knows everything.
Yeah, the kid know. Yeah.
Did he have insider knowledge or no?
Well, probably.
Just call him an anorak. He'll appreciate that.
Yeah.
Rachel, for you, was it a similar thing? Was it the Jam, or did it come later?
Rachel, we've only got half an hour.
No. We've only got half an hour. How rude.
I know. She loves me, really.
Dan, I don't know if you can't really see, but I have got on my wall behind me, unfortunately, the light is reflecting in it.
Yeah, it looks like a mirror. What is it?
But it isn't.
Beautiful photograph.
Oh, it's Paul Weller at the piano. What's that, circa 2010, something like that, is it? Oh, it's a signed picture of Mr. Weller.
So Mr. Weller for me was, like I said, it was the guys, the lads hanging around the tennis courts at schools in the Parkers. I was very much an 80s babe, so I was more Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, Paul Young, Rick Astley. You know, that was my teenage years. I remember the Style Council singing along to a few of their songs on the radio. Like I said, I rediscovered him when You Do Something to Me came out, and the album, that was, I call that's the flame that reignited my Weller passion. We were married in 97, but we had that as our wedding song, which I think a lot of people around then had it, you know, and still do. You know, it's very cliche, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great tune, though, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
You know, that's a standard. I can't remember who it was. Somebody was saying on the podcast. Oh, it was Dave Swift was saying on the podcast. Yes. Jules Holland's bassist was saying how that really is a standard. You know, and he's amazed that other people haven't covered that song.
I am as well.
Yeah, because you can hear that from crooners, all sorts. Yeah. Can you? It's a classic. That.
It is. So I went back to the start, literally the start, and I've worked my way through all the years, and now up to date with Fat Pop. it sparked something, and it was like, oh God, yeah, I remember this guy. You know, he sang in the Jam when I was a bit younger. You know, I was like, remember these songs. There was something that just sparked something in me, and I think, like Jackie was saying, you know, when you actually sit down and properly listen to the lyrics and the words, it was like, oh my God, wow, you know, this man is writing just, you know, these words that just, I got something from them. So I went back right to the start and then started collecting all the albums, listening to them. He's opened so many doors for me, whether it be, you know, meeting friends, meeting Jackie and Jane. I could sit here tonight and reel a list of names off for you, people that I've met, and the opportunities that I've had as well because of Paul. Put it bluntly, you know, I've been very, very lucky to go to so many, the exhibitions, like I said previously, the Q&As, book launches, just these people we've met are just such lovely, lovely people. You know, I don't know if you know Sam Molnar. So he's a great friend. He's a Woking lad. And I once remember having a conversation with Sam, and I just said, you know, I wonder if Paul actually realises, you know, because of him, these amazing, wonderful friendships have been formed. You know, people all over the country, all over the world. And he said, yeah, he's had a conversation with Paul about this. Paul is quite touched, really, because of him. You know, there's so many lovely friendships have been made. Yeah.
Now we have to get into the Facebook groups because this is a big thing. And you know what? I left Facebook for a few years because it was doing my nutting from a mental health point of view. But I went back on because of the podcast, because, you know, ultimately when you create a podcast, you start from an audience of 0. There are no listeners whatsoever. So you have to find listeners, obviously, and you have to promote yourself and promote the podcast. And amazingly, this thing kind of took off immediately, which was incredible. And that's down to Mr. Weller and the fan base and you know, people like yourselves. But I had to dig in. I had to get back on Facebook and get into these groups, and my God, there's a lot of you chatting about Paul Weller all day long. Unbelievable. I mean, there's like every morning there are people posting good morning with pictures. It's the same people every day. You're all getting involved. Jackie, I know the Facebook group was a big thing for you in terms of discovering the music of Paul and getting back into Mr. Weller. Can you tell us what it is about that community that means a lot to you?
Yeah, I mean, I went back on Facebook. I'd come off it for a few years, and then I went back on it. I just thought, I wonder if there are any Jam groups or Paul Weller groups out there. Yeah, I was just blown away by how many. Meeting and started chatting with people, and you realise, you know, there is people out there that feel the same way as me, and they have this mutual love for the Jam, the Style Council, Paul Weller, and then you just all get chatting, and then you think, oh, there's there's events happening. Wow, I didn't know that, you know. And I'd actually missed out on the exhibitions in Liverpool and London, which I was really, really gutted about because I wasn't on Facebook, so I didn't know that they were going on. Really, really thankful for the Facebook groups, you know, that we've discovered all our mutual friends, and by God, we've got loads of them, haven't we, girls?
We have.
We really have made so many friends on there. You know, we've met so many people. I mean, the fact that we've met Nikki Weller through it. We're actually friends with her. You know, the list just goes on and on. Like you say, you know, Tufty. You know, who'd have thought that we would ever meet people that are that connected with Paul Weller? So I, for one, just feel completely overwhelmed and just so thankful that I've got all these friends that mean the world to me, you know. So when we talk about Facebook groups, Jackie, you actually run one of them, is that right? Yeah, so myself and Shane Jewson, we are admin for Weller of Woking, and it's a very close-knit group, I'd say. You know, all of us on there are, you know, massive Paul Weller fans, and we all respect him. You know, there's no arguments on there at all. It's a lovely group, and we just share, and it's brilliant. So absolutely fantastic group. So we, you know, like to thank everybody for contributing. Nice. So you haven't joined already?
Well, no, I'm in there. I was just checking. I'm in there, but let me check this with you in terms of, you know, how do we feel about the others? So we've got Paul Weller, a British institution. We've got Paul Weller Fan Club, Paul Weller Solo, the Jam Society, All Weller, the Jam Open Brackets Memories. Which one are you shaking your head at?
Jam Society.
Yeah, Jackie and I. We met on the Jam Society, Jackie and I.
Yeah, we did.
I shared a drawing, I won't say who drew it, of the Jam that was drew for me. So I uploaded the picture. It got a bit of a beating. So Jackie supported me and we got friends through that picture.
I remember now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was quite,
years ago.
I'm a bit sensitive soul. And
what was wrong with it? Had you done the picture?
No, it wasn't me. I can't say who did. I wouldn't say who did. I liked it. I thought it was good, but other people didn't. Well, just a couple of people that aren't very nice.
See, this is why I left Facebook in the first place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So we have the Jam Appreciation Society, the Paul Weller Connection, the Paul Weller Appreciation Society, the Weller Collective official Facebook group. The Friends of Spin Drifting. I've not even gone onto the Style Council. Shout to the top. There's so many groups. Are you in all of them? Are you in all of them?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm a bit selective.
I don't really look at all of them. Only Weller Evoking.
Because it's the best one. So you don't need another group.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Now, Jackie, I have to ask you. So you've not met Paul, but you have had tea at Anne Weller.
I have had tea. Yes.
Paul Weller's mum. So how did this happen?
So I run a group called Modern Classics, where I make coasters, mugs, anything with kind of like anything that's mod Paul related. So I do, a lot of printing and print stuff on them. Nikki Weller wanted a load of coasters from me for gifts and presents. And also at the same time, Steve had a photo taken with him and Paul, and he wanted those printed onto coasters as well. So I had arranged to obviously deliver them to Nikki, and we just happened to meet in Ripley, and come on, we go to my mum's house. And I'm like, whoa, this is like scary, but so we ended up sort of going into Anne's house, and she was so warm and welcoming, just like Nikki, just an amazing family. Ended up having tea, cakes, chatting about everything, and obviously Tufty was there as well, and also his cousin was there, which I was a bit like, well, and I was just waiting for Paul Weller to walk in, but unfortunately, apparently he was coming down the next day, and I'm always a day early. I went to Camden last Saturday in the hope that he would be around, and he went shopping the next day, so I missed him again.
Someone's tipping me off.
I think so. I think he's really avoiding me for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah.
He's got a tracker on you somewhere.
So that was lovely. It really was lovely.
That's brilliant, because I had a virtual invite. So when I recorded the episode with Nikki Weller, it was recorded in Anne's house. And Anne kept chipping in, and which was lovely.
We heard that. She was so funny. She is hilarious, and some of the stories she told us, just so funny. It was great. I could have just sat there forever. Absolutely brilliant.
She's lovely. Jackie, do you remember Nikki invited us to the book launch of the Stinger book that she did with Tina down, and that was held in Camden. She very kindly invited myself and my husband down to the launch, and we got there, like a reading of the book first, and then there was it was one of the guys from Modfather Clothing. Somebody did a DJ set anyway, and played various music, and we were all sat there chatting away happily, and literally about the second note of Town Call Malice, shot up off her chair. And she was on that dance floor, and she put us to shame. She was having a whale of a time on that dance floor. She really was, and it was Jack. We were dancing with her, weren't we, Jackie? And it was it was so a really surreal. Hang on a minute. Here's a suburban housewife from Bingley in Yorkshire dancing to Town Call Malice with Paul's mum and Paul's sister as well.
You do get the sense that Anne is a fan of the Jam and a fan of the music that Paul's creating as much as anything else, right?
And I think Town Call Malice is her favourite song as well.
Brilliant. Now we should get into Paul Weller Live, because this must be a big thing for all of you. Jane, I know you mentioned that you try and see Paul every tour once, but you're also a big fan of From the Jam as well.
It keeps all the songs fresh in your mind, and it takes you back to your youth, really, and you get that sense of energy back within yourself again. And I did manage to meet them backstage once, about 9 years ago, on Paul Weller's birthday, about 2:15 in the morning. They were such nice guys. So I just make sure if they're around and it's not too far for me to go, I'll always go twice a year at least. They work so hard. They really do. And they always give you a great night out.
And what is it about the Weller Live experience?
It's usually Cardiff for me at the Motorpoint Arena, but it's always been good. And my husband's a fan of downloading the set list before we go, and I get a bit cross with because I think, what are you doing? You know, it's like showing you your birthday cake the day before your birthday.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to me? I'll find out when I get there. It's always a great night out, and there's a mixture of, you know, like acoustic, soul-y, and the old ones to get you jumping up and down again like you're in your teens, you know.
Are you a mosh pit kind of gal?
A little bit, but not too much now. I don't want to miss too much, so I try and stay grounded and just take it all in.
It's quite a commitment, the mosh pit these days, I find, because you have to get there really early to get into that thing, and you have to have a pretty strong bladder. And as I get over, that's not the case. It's a young person's game, that mosh pit, like that front row.
Yeah. The guys that are around him at the moment are phenomenal guys. We go support Steve Pilgrim a lot. You know, I think he's very, very underrated, is Steve. He's lovely. And Steve Craddock, and it was at the Stinger launch book that Jackson and I were at. He just popped in. He'd been at Radio 2 doing something that morning, and he just popped in. Just thought, oh, hi, Steve. I'm Rach. I'm a friend of Nicky's, and da-da-da. You're coming up to Bingley, where I live, in a few weeks' time, because we have a 3-day music festival up here. And I said, oh, you know, Ocean Colour Scene, you're playing. You know, like, oh, can we have a photograph? Da-da-da-da. Sent him the photograph on, I think it was Instagram or something. And the most bizarre thing, I think I was like sat in the dentist's chair and my phone was going mad. Come out the dentist and it's like, oh my God, what's happened? And I'm getting all these private messages from Steve Craddock sort of saying, oh, you know, nice to meet you, Rach. Can you send me your email? I've put you on my guest list for Bingley Music. So to cut a bit of a long story short, my husband and I ended up access all areas pass for the whole weekend, and we were side stage for the Ocean Colour Scene set, you know. And I remember saying to him, sort of a bit of a cliche again, you know, here I am, a humble housewife clutching a milk bottle to her heart, you know, and there I am side stage, you know, for the festival with them playing. So, you know, all the guys are, you know, they interact on social media with everybody.
Yeah.
And
we're all really friends with them, aren't we?
And you know, they are genuine guys, the whole band.
Very approachable.
Yeah, very approachable.
Yeah. Got a good team around him.
When I first dreamt of this idea of this podcast, obviously I created a bit of a list of, you know, a wish list of, you know, who would be the people on it. And obviously you three were at the top of the list. But as I got past that, you know, Craddock was right up there. And, you know, it's still my dream. You know, Steve Craddock on the podcast would be amazing.
Yeah.
I think
he would.
He would.
I think he'd do it. He would. I think he would, Dan.
Fingers crossed. No pressure. No pressure, Chopper. Rachel, you've done something that I've never managed to do yet. I'm massively jealous of this, I have to say, as a Weller fan.
Me too, before she says it.
You've seen Weller abroad, haven't you? Overseas.
Yes. October 2018.
Yeah. October the 6th.
So this was True Meanings time.
So Paul did a really, really small European, not even a tour really, just a few dates in Europe. And they were the warm-up for the Royal Festival Hall specials that he did, the orchestrated ones. We flew out on the Friday, gig was the Saturday night, and we flew home the Sunday. So it was just this bonkers, not even 48 hours.
Obviously, the Royal Festival Hall gig, Hannah Peel orchestration.
Yes.
An amazing thing, which is known as Other Aspects as an album, which is just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. Presumably the Rotterdam gig wasn't that. It wasn't full.
No.
So was it just him and Steve Craddock? Who was it?
No, it was Paul, Steve, Andy Crofts, Steve Pilgrim. They were all there. Ben.
They were all there. Yeah.
Tom was there. Yeah, they were all there. And it was just... Again, it was a seated thing because it was in this theatre, and it was first come, first serve. You know, we'd met in the town earlier, like you do, and have a drink. It's funny, isn't it? Sort of slowly, people started to slope off, and you're thinking, where have they gone? I know where they're going. They're going to go join the queue, aren't they? Right, come on, drink up. We're off to join this queue. It was first come, first serve. The elbows, you know, I'm on a shorty, but I've got good elbows to push through. So we were on, my husband and I we managed to get sort of 4th row back, but dead in the centre. And it was just, I can still remember now, and I get it at every concert I go to. The lights go down, and then the spotlights come on, and the boys walk across the stage, and you just... I must admit, whether I'm a big northern softie or what, I don't know, but every gig, I always get a tear to my eye when they walk on stage. I do.
That was a special gig though, wasn't it?
It was. I don't think at the time we realised how special it was. Mainly acoustic as well. It was lovely. And then I was very lucky after the gig to shoot round sort of the stage door, and we met all the guys, which was lovely. Paul sort of came out with, I think it was Bill Bill Wheeler, Bill and Ken that came out with him. We sort of walked around the coach and we just sort of, hi Paul, great gig tonight.
Yeah, well, you were lucky though. You were lucky. You
were lucky because you went with Jackie and her tag that alerts Paul Weller, yeah?
I got tricked in Rotterdam. Okay.
Oh, hold on, you were in Rotterdam as well, were you?
Oh yeah, I was in Rotterdam.
There, yeah.
All right.
I was second row. Okay, so he'd clocked me already, right?
There she is, restraining order.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd gone around the back, again, like Rachel said, we'd gone around the back to meet him, and his bouncer came out. Mike, I think his name is. He's conned me a few times. And he said, go round the other side, he'll be round in a minute. So we all walked around the other side of the coach. He gets on this side, on the other side. And we were like, yeah, you tricked us again, haven't you?
Oh, my God, this is hilarious.
I had tickets to go to Germany, but obviously I don't know when that'll be now. It was meant to be last year, but now it'll be next year, hopefully.
Yeah, so I was looking the other day. Let me get my phone up here. So I was looking the other day at... where are we? 2 seconds. Let me find the picture. Right, here we go.
Can I just tell you, everybody, I've just had a tweet notification and Paul Weller's just tweeted to us all.
What? What's he tweeted you?
Paul Weller's tweeted, we have an update on the vinyl pre-order for Orchestrated Songbook.
I thought you meant to us.
Rachel, Jackie and Jane, not to worry, I've got your orders safely. Bob down for a coffee to the barn and I'll sign them for you.
Perfect, yeah. Apart from Jackie, because, she ain't getting
Apart from Jackie, that pest. Right, hold on. I can't find the bloody list. There we are. Right, so we're talking... So European Tour 2022, we're talking kicks off Belgium. Currently, time of recording, 20th of May in Belgium. Then we head to Germany, few gigs, Dortmund, Berlin, Hamburg, Cologne, Frankfurt. Then on to the Netherlands. A couple of nights in Amsterdam as part of that as well, but 4 nights in the Netherlands. Then on to France. I worked it out. It's like 2 weeks, right? So here's an idea for the podcast, okay? So next spring, the final week of the podcast culminates in me on a 2-week tour on the tour bus with the band, touring around Europe. The final episode is me chatting with Paul on the last night of the tour. How's that a way to wrap up this series?
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
That's going to happen. For you, Dan. We'll get it sorted.
Yeah. When I mentioned that to my wife, she was less keen. Who's looking after the kids in that period? That's how I see this dream thing wrapping up, I have to say. But
that'd be nice. It'd be nice if that.
Because there's something about the European experience, and obviously Paul, through the Style Council years particularly, was called himself a European. So I think there's always something for me about wanting to see him in Europe, and then after that, who knows, Australia, New York, whatever.
That's where I want to go. New York, see him in New York. Yeah.
Let's talk about the new stuff. So that was True Meanings, which I think is right up there in his canon as one of the best things he's ever done. But how are we feeling about True Meanings, other aspects on Sunset, Fat Pop? It's a pretty good run over the past 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah, I loved On Sunset, and I'm just blown away by Fat Pop. I just play it constantly, day in, day out. I just love it. The more I listen to it, I just love it every day more.
Now, Jane, just over your left-hand shoulder, I can see the picture disc of Fat Pop popping out from there. Is that right down there?
Yeah, I've been doing it. Can I just show you something? I've been making these for nearly 2 years, Little Hearts. So this one's going to Paul Weller. I've already sent him some before of different albums. It's just a hobby.
And what is this? This is a fabric heart with Fat Pop on it.
Yeah,
is it smelly? Does it smell nice?
No, nothing like that.
Oh, right.
It smells of curry, wormwood scrub, and all that kind of stuff. But it's just a hobby, and I've been making them for friends and stuff as well.
I was trying desperately when they started doing the little social media about Fat Pop. I was trying to get it to stop on Fan Pod, because I reckon you could probably do that. So you'll have to do me one of those with Fan Pod on it. That would be lovely.
Yeah, I will do you one. No problem.
Yay. Are you a bit of a collector as well? When Fat Pop was announced, how did you decide what to go for? Was it just the picture disc, or is there other stuff from Fat Pop?
No, I've just got the picture disc. If you're not on social media, you miss out. So I took a little break. I got back on. As soon as it was released, my daughter bought it me. All my friends were talking about the Soul Deep Style Council book, which I missed out on. So I was a bit crazy about that, because I've got, lots of jam books and that. Me and my daughter were doing it. It was so busy. And this book, I thought it's fine, £35 or whatever it was. But I got a limited one with, I think it's signed. It's a softback cover, not the hard. Instead of buying one copy, I've ended up with 3. So my bill was £158 instead of about 35.
I have found the past, so this podcast at time of recording has been going for just over 6 months, right? Yeah. I have found it's been an expensive time to be a Paul Weller fan. There's been a lot out. What with Soul Deep, there was Simon Halfon's book, there was Bill Smith's book, and I went a bit nuts with Fat Pop. So I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to get the one thing, right? I'm just going to get the CD. I'll get the CD box set. And then I was like, oh no, I'll get some coloured vinyl. And then the 7-inch box set came out, so I got that. And then the other day, they put back on sale the 3 albums again on vinyl. Yeah. I've got far too much stuff. I mean, there's only so much. What am I listening to? I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot to say and a lot to see about Paul Weller, right? You know, you never get bored of looking at new photos and hearing stories, and that's the purpose of the podcast.
No, that's right. Because we've all got friends on social media, we all collect a lot of stuff. But if you're missing something, somebody will just get at you and send it you. You know, if and then, you know, you don't know them from Adam. You know, they're so genuine and they just want you to have what they've got, you know.
A couple of other things we have to talk about. Jackie, we need to talk about Paul Weller's 60th birthday. Tell me about this. So,
he didn't invite me.
But you were involved in some way, weren't you?
Yeah. So
I feel like he's just teasing you here, isn't he?
He is. Yeah, I've been that close, you know, and I've done so much for him. He's just so ungrateful. So I used to run. I had a gift shop and a studio where I used to do glass fusing. So I used to teach courses and classes and stuff, and I used to rent shelf space out to other sort of crafters and people. And I got chatting with Nikki one day, and she used to do all her knitting, and I think she still does it actually. And I said, well, why don't you just, you know, pop a few bits down to the shop and, you know, try and sell them, you know, on one of the shelves. So that was the first time I think, was it the first time I met her? Yeah, I think it was the first time I met her. She walked into my shop and I'm like, oh my God, this is Paul Weller's sister walking into my shop, you know, and it was just surreal. And she just come over and hugged me. She was so down to earth, so natural. We just got chatting and everything. And then she kind of looked round at everything. And I had a glass fused, it was a Vespa scooter that I'd made in glass, but on a picture. It's hard to explain if you don't know what I mean, but it's like all pieces of glass cut out in the shape of a scooter, and it was a Vespa and it was stuck on a frame. So she was kind of picking it up going, I need, you know, I was going to knit Paul Weller a scarf, or I knit my brother a scarf.
I'd love it if she calls him Paul Weller. That would
this
be
is
hilarious.
What I found really, really odd. When she came in, she was like, oh, my brother this, my brother that, you know, and I'm like thinking, she's talking about Paul Weller, you know, and then she'd talk about her nieces and nephew. She's talking about his kids. It was like really weird. But then she said, you know, I need to sort of make, you know, I'm thinking of making Paul a scarf for his birthday. And then she went, but it's a bit naff, isn't it, really, just giving him a scarf. She then looked around the shop and she saw the scooter picture. So she was umming and ahhing, you know, shall I get him that? Shall I, you know? And then she just said, would you be able to do a Rickenbacker, you know, out of glass? Yeah, of course I can, no problem. So I was like, oh, no pressure. So, yeah, it just went from there, really. We just discussed what she wanted and what he'd like. And we kind of just, you know, I drew it all out and yeah, that's it, really. The rest is history. It took me quite a few weeks to make it because obviously I wanted it to be really, you know, special.
And how big was this? So this is a picture made from glass, is it?
Yeah, I've actually got a photo with him holding it, which is signed as well. So it's kind of, I would say, bigger than A4 kind of size. I'm not really good with measurements.
This sounds brilliant. Well, what a lovely thing.
Yeah. So it was a nice kind of thin frame with the guitar just upright, and then it had the little plaque that said the Jam, and it had a target in the corners and stuff like that. So she gave it to him for his birthday. So I felt really honoured that, you know, she'd done that.
And Rachel, tell me about the jars of Jam.
The Jam. So I first met Nikki at Somerset House at the exhibition there. I'm a firm believer in things are meant to be and they'll happen if they're meant to happen. We sort of missed the exhibition, but then they extended it for 3 or 4 weeks. So we managed to get tickets for that. Went down for the day. Oh, you sort of lucky. Paul's sister Nikki, who's curated it, is actually doing a curator's tour free of charge. So it's like, yeah, us Northerners, we like a bit of freebies. So yeah, we're up for that. But again, it was, you've got to be in the queue. So at 2 o'clock or whatever, you know, you had to be at this certain place. outside Somerset House. So the elbows came out again. I was there at front of the queue. So Nikki took us round, showed us some of the bits in the exhibition. And, you know, at the end, like you do, you get chatting, hi, how are you? And she said to me, she said, I know you from somewhere. I'm sure we've met before. And I was like, no, we haven't. I wish we had, but no, we haven't. So that was the first time I'd met her. And then subsequently, we were lucky. My husband and I we were very lucky and went to the opening of the exhibition in Liverpool. And so there was all the photographs there. Rick Buckler came, opened it. There was Nikki, Den, Rick, and a few of us there. And then we got chatting, and I said, "Oh, Rach, you know, go get a coffee at the little cafe. I've made a strawberry cake." And I said to her, "Oh God, Nikki, don't talk to me about strawberries." At the time I had an allotment, and I just said, "I've got so many strawberries." I said, "I just don't know what to do with them all." So like this conversation meandered along, and it ended up, so over that summer, I think it was something like I had 250 jars of jam that I made. It was a bit of a family production business. So my daughter designed like the fabric jam covers. So some of them with a mod target, and we had some with other bits on. My son, who is a university student doing graphic design, he designed the labels to go on the jars, and we just called it the Jam. So we sold it at the exhibition. Nikki has a charity that's close to her heart, and we sold it in aid of that charity. And I can't remember the final amount, but it was a phenomenal amount of money we made. And I just spent that summer going backwards and forward on the train from Leeds to Liverpool with like a trolley dolly full of jam. So yes, I did like strawberry, raspberry, strawberry and gin, strawberry and prosecco. Another guy, lovely guy we've got to know through everything, a guy called Kev, who took a bit of time out and helped Nikki at the exhibition. Said, Paul went to the exhibition in Liverpool and apparently picked up one of these jars and said, I'll have this, mate. How much is it? And Kev turned around to him and said, it's got alcohol in it, Paul. And of course, as we know, Paul, bless him, is teetotal. So the jar was put down and he never bought it. So, a lot of the jars went to very, 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 very nice homes and been well loved.
Brilliant. That is hilarious. I love it. Hey, look, this has been so lovely. As you know, for the podcast, there are 2 final questions, and I'm going to ask each of you in turn. And Jane, we'll kick off with you. You're allowed one Paul Weller song for the rest of your life. It can be the Jam, the Style Council, or solo. Which one are you going to go for?
It'll always be Start, I think, for me. There's so many, but I do love Start. I think it just what sticks in your head at the time, really. It just rounds off everything from the start to now, I suppose.
And it's one I've seen live in recent years as well. It's one he does. Yeah. He pulls out the canon occasionally for the solo stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the lyrics do bring a tear to my eye as well, I suppose. Yeah.
Jackie, one Paul Weller song for the rest of your life. It can be the Jam, the Style Council, or solo. What are you going to go for?
Oh, it's got to be Town Called Malice, isn't it? You know, I love so many more than that, but that is the one that started it all. So that's the one that's got to be, you know, with me for the rest of my life. So yeah, and you know, my boys love it as well. They know all the words, you know. So I've not done a bad job.
No, and that is one that he does pull out a lot, actually.
Yeah,
so, it's one that he
and I know
still connects with.
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody knows that song. You know, so yeah, for me, it'll always be that one. But there are loads of others, obviously.
Yeah, of course. And Rachel, finally for you. So, what are you going to go with?
It's got to be, hasn't it? It's got to be You Do Something to Me. You know, that was the song that reignited the flame for me. And we were very, very lucky, my husband and I, that 2 years ago on Monday, this coming Monday, we were stood in Dalby Forest for one of the Forest gigs on our 22nd wedding anniversary to the day. And Paul walked over to the piano where we were stood in front of, and he sang it for us, you know, so yeah.
Bless you. Love it. That's really nice. There was one thing we should talk about was the gigs in lockdown. So actually the Forest gigs were the last time I saw Paul live. I think, so that was for most of us, right? And mine was in Kent, but there were obviously a bunch of them. We've obviously had a couple of gigs in lockdown. We had the Midsummer Murders. That's something entirely different.
Music, yeah.
Bloody love John Nettles. Brilliant. Midsummer Murders.
Midsummer Music.
Music. Thank you. Yeah. We had that last summer, which is part of that box set that I was talking about now as well, which was brilliant. But then also more recently, the wonderful gig at the Barbican, which was wow, wasn't it?
Wow, God. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Loved it.
I mean, can you imagine if there had been an audience there? I think, well, if I had have been there I'm attempting fate by saying I probably would have never gone to another Paul Weller gig again.
Really? That would have been it.
After that, after seeing it on the television, and I watched it live stream, and then obviously it was on the other night, wasn't it? And it's just like, but it does this to us, doesn't it, though, Paul? We think, oh my God, how can you better this? And then he does.
Yeah.
But that was
every time. Yeah.
Oh my God. And the duet, I'm still getting over the duet with Boy George, and 40 years of not singing a song and then suddenly singing it. Oh God, yeah. I'd
also forgotten, and I love James Morrison, but I'd forgotten how bloody good James Morrison, because he's been away for a bit, and I know for various reasons. But to see him back up there, and you were just like, oh my God, The Broken Stones is a great song anyway, but that was a terrific version. And I'm really pleased that that's the next album. So how lucky we are to just before Christmas this year, we're going to get another LP of that performance, because it was very special, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah.
There is a final question I have to ask on the podcast. All my guests get to answer it. The purpose of this podcast is not only to talk to lovely people like yourselves, but it's also to get that interview with Paul, the one that I never managed to get. And if it happens, Jackie, you'll have to come with me and hold my microphone.
Oh, I will. Try and stop me.
But if it happens, when it happens, what should I talk to Paul about? What should I ask him, Jane? What do you reckon?
Don't ask him about the reunion. Don't ask him that one. I don't know, really. I think I know enough, really. But I wouldn't like to be that intrusive. I'm not on the stalkers list as such. But it'd always be nice to know something different about him. He still oozes coolness to me, and he always looks, very dapper and very cool, and moves with the times. So I don't know. I just like to know what he's listening to right now.
Chris Stifford said to me that how one of the things he respected about Paul was how much effort he puts into being Paul Weller. And I liked that as a thought or as a question, because actually there must be days where he gets up and he's like, do you know what, I'm going to put the trackies on today, and I'm going to
he does and he
dress down Friday. But you're like, no, I've never seen it. He's like so dapper every time.
He does keep fit. He does do a few exercises and stuff. I know that much. Now,
you talked about the stalkers list. So Jackie, what would be your question for Paul?
I would ask, what would he have done if he'd never started the Jam? If he'd never formed the Jam, what would he have gone on to do? How does he see his life, would have turned out? That would be really, really interesting. What job he would have done, what he would have done other than music, really. It may have just been like a one-hit wonder, and, what would have happened? Would people still be kind of like playing that one hit and still be as mad about him today as what we all are, if they hadn't have had such a, lot of records? And
they'd be like, it'd be almost like the Beatles film Yesterday, wouldn't it? About Paul Weller and the Jam. The world wouldn't exist without it, really.
There's a Weller film in the making, isn't there? It could be Desperately Seeking Paul the movie, let's be honest.
Yeah,
the other thing
I thought Jackie Pierce as the
as the stalker. There was a thought I had of, it would make a great musical as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the songs just stack up as anyway. The West, we're coming to the West End, ladies. This will be great. Right. So, Rachel, I have to ask you the same question. So, if and when I get to chat to Paul, what should we talk about?
A bit of a sort of two-bit, really. I asked a very good friend of mine who is a big Paul Weller fan as well. And I said, oh, Chris, what can I ask? What question can I ask? So it was he came along up with, which band do you wish you were part of other than the ones that you've been in? And then my sort of little add-on to that would be, he's done duets with other people who've sung his songs. Is there anybody that he would like to duet with to do one of their songs?
Nice. That's a good one. I like that. Yeah. I saw him do Adele with Chasing Pavements.
That was on one of the BBC things, wasn't it?
And he cocked up the lyrics. But that's a great question. Well done. I love that. Right. This has been so lovely. My thanks to the three of you, to Jane, to Jackie, to Rachel. This has been great. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it too.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Well, that was fabulous. My thanks once again to the amazing Weller superfans that are known as the Jam Tarts. Jackie Pierce, Jane Griffiths and Rachel Phillips. What a pleasure it was to spend time in their company chatting about the great man. Now, coming soon on the podcast, you'll hear from the musician Declan O'Rourke, broadcaster John Wilson, author David Lyons, and Mr. Jam, John Abnett, to name a few of my very special guests. Don't forget to subscribe or follow wherever you get your podcasts, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, etc. Do leave a review. It really does help me to find new listeners to the show, and please share on your social media channels. You can also buy me a coffee and find information about my guests in the show notes for the podcast. Get in touch on Twitter @WellerFanPod, or on Instagram and Facebook. You can get in touch. It's Paul Weller Fan Podcast. I'll see you next time.